say a word.
All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. My name is Dr. Richard Kaye, and we have Dr. Darren Starwynn here. How many of you, and raise your hands, but we can't see them, have heard of the expression quantum healing? That expression was made famous by long, long time ago by Dr. Deepak Chopra. And the other day, I was had the privilege of being introduced to Dr. Starwynn, who practices quantum healing, a whole different model. It's just words. And I asked Darren, how did you get into this? We'll explore what quantum healing is in a little bit, but how did you get into this? It's so amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Richard and Angela, for hosting me here. It's been really great getting to know you. How do I get into this? You know, that's such a great question. So many of us find ourselves going into places where it goes way, way back, a sequence of different experiences we've had that have led us in different directions. I call that being divinely guided. And I can see how that's happened to me going back to being a doctor at a young age and having many different experiences in medicine, and then being very interested in spirituality when I was actually only a teenager. I actually went to India when I was a teenager to study with a spiritual teacher. And then I've been completely involved in these healing arts ever since. And so I'd say this quantum aspect is something that really started fascinating me probably about 10 years ago when I had unexplainable experiences with certain patients where they would have these tremendous healings that were unexpected, while other people I tried very hard to work on with my techniques and my acupuncture, had more average results. So it got me very, very intrigued, as you can imagine.
I can. And basically, there are a lot of people suffering in pain. There's emotional pain, and there's sickness and depression. And they keep going to different doctors and therapists, and they can't find the relief that they're looking for. In your opinion, what is the number one reason people aren't getting well?
Well, thank you for asking that, Angela. That's a question I've thought about a great deal, written several books about. What it really is, the old idea of the tip of the iceberg and the iceberg, right? That we see the tip of the iceberg, which is our pain. My migraines aren't going away, or why do I keep feeling blue all the time, or I can't get ahead financially, or whatever. That's that tip of the iceberg. But really, we're not trained to look at what the iceberg actually is. Our society still looks at things fairly on the surface. But really, what is that iceberg? Is that we are interconnected with so many other people, and we have quite a history ourselves. So therefore, let's say, for instance, if you come from a family where people have been through a lot of really difficult, let's say, persecution in the past, or coming from other cultures where it's difficult, and you're living in a really, let's say, more affluent lifestyle where you feel like you're not experiencing that, you're still connected with all those other people and, in a sense, feeling some of their other experiences. There's also, it goes back to the past. And I personally believe that each of us has had more than one lifetime. And we have a lot of experiences in that iceberg that we're not taught to recognize. And a lot of that contributes to chronic pain, to chronic depression, to people having, getting cancer and many kinds of diseases. And, people in the medical profession and even the holistic healing profession that I've been very part of, like acupuncture and homeopathy and, so on, sort of off the radar screen, a lot of these things. So it takes kind of being a spiritual detective to go in and look for those hidden root causes of why people suffer and are blocked like that. So that's the best, most short answer I can give you to a very big question.
You approach something that's very interesting. As a retired chiropractor, and just audience for the reference, I practiced in San Diego for 30 years. What I learned is that most people in the medical community are chasing symptoms. And we used to teach patients that a headache is not caused by a lack of aspirin in the body. That's the classic model.
Yeah.
Oh, or doc, I have a raging headache every Monday morning, all the time. Well, what'd you do Sunday night? Well, I went out and I had a couple of 6 packs of beer. What is the underlying cause? And from our discussions here and earlier in the day, that since you've spoken, you have evolved a system to find out what's beneath the veneer, find out what the underlying cause is. Would you speak to that?
Yeah, I'd love to, Richard. It reminds me of one time I had a client come in with chronic neck pain, and I was trying to help him, and he wasn't getting better. And finally, I asked him, "Well, what do you do?" He said, "Well, I do headstands and yoga for 20 minutes a day." Right, that kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're asking a great question: is how do we find that iceberg, and how do we actually see clearly what it is and actually do something about it? Well, there's a whole system. I've been taking in information, studying forms of medicine and holistic healing and Chinese medicine and spiritual healing for really now it's close to 40 years. And what I have found is that you can take a lot of these systems that are needlessly complex or based on different cultures or belief systems and kind of simplify them way down to some very essential elements of how you can see this level in people. Now, part of it is develop a practitioner, somebody who wants to do this needs to develop what's called higher sense perception.
Mm.
That's basically a flowering of your intuition so that you can become more trust these way of seeing beyond just the logical mind.
Hmm.
So if you combine, the input you get from diagnostic methods that you do, if you're some kind of doctor or health practitioner, with these hunches and these flashes of inspiration, it's like pictures come to you, images come. So like to give you an example of that, I was just a little while ago, there was a very good friend of my wife's who was having chronic shoulder pain. And this is a woman who's really conscious. I mean, she takes great care of her body. She's super fit. She meditates every day. And, somebody you wouldn't expect to have chronic issues. But she just had all this degeneration. She was the wrong shoulder, right shoulder. The rotator cuff was just very degenerated. Surgeon said she needed to have this major surgery and she didn't want to do it. So I offered to do a quantum healing session with her over Zoom. This was just a very brief thing. And as I worked with her and checked the levels of her chakras and checked some of her energies, which is something that can be done very quickly, I saw that shoulder pain that she was having was based on this overly heavy sense of responsibility she was carrying and a sense of judgment toward herself that she didn't even know was there. And so when I saw that and pointed it out to her and had her shift some of her attitudes, and make some perceptual shifts, her shoulder started feeling better. She felt this kind of sense of recognition. And when we checked with her a week later, her shoulder was way better, didn't need the surgery. So I'd say that there's so much more to it. Like some other examples of it is that there's people who are, for instance, having, just moodiness, depression, feeling panic attacks, things like this, when there's not really a clear reason for it. But when we go in and look on that quantum level, we can see that they actually are carrying fear and panic from some of their ancestors. I mean, believe me, going back sometimes to previous generations or their parents or other people, they've somehow agreed to do that. It's like we don't consciously remember doing this. So once they become conscious of it and shift that decision, they start feeling better. So those are a few examples. I hope that's a little bit clear to it.
Yeah.
It is. And I talk about generational trauma a lot in my work. And it's a huge thing that people just don't realize that it affects their daily life. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah, you're evoking, our memories are being evoked from hearing you from my days of practice.
Wow.
It's a common expression in many regions that the map is not the terrain, and the blood test doesn't tell you anything. There was a study done decades ago on cadavers, dead people. They took spinal x-rays of the lumbar, the lower spine, ladies and gentlemen. And that's where a lot of people have pretty intense pain sometimes.
Yeah, right.
The x-ray results were shown to orthopedic surgeons. Now, what's the key word here? Surgeons. What do surgeons look for? They look for where to operate.
Right.
You, as an acupuncturist, a doctor of acupuncture, you're going to look for where to clean up the meridians. The majority of these surgeons said this person needs immediate surgery. Well, aside from the fact they were dead, set that aside for a moment, their medical history, they had no expression of back pain.
Okay.
The map is not the terrain. So from a static point, yeah, you look at the x-rays, and I've seen those patients, not the dead ones, but I've seen those kinds of patients. I said, what's going on? Oh, nothing, I feel fine. And it's not denial, their clinical history. So it appears, Doc, that you go underneath that and evoke stuff so people can heal. Your story about the shoulder is like, yeah, like, holy cow. You've probably got some other wonderful stories. Can you share one or two others with us?
Yeah, Richard, one that comes to mind is a woman. I'll change her name for confidentiality, but she was an older Chinese woman who was owned quite a few businesses in the San Francisco area, had a really big extended family that she was part of. And she was kind of like the matriarch of her family. And she came into me complaining of ankle pain. Talk about the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that was her main complaint. I've gotten to these different people and my ankle pain is still there. So as I talked to her, she said, well, also, I had a seizure a few years ago, and since then I'm very unsteady on my feet. It's hard to walk. I've gained all this weight. I have all this brain fog, and my energy is really low. It's hard to keep up with all my businesses. So we did a single quantum healing session, that first one, which involved looking at some of her energy patterns, again, chakras, meridians, some of these, deeper spiritual patterns she was holding. And when it was over, I said, take a walk down the hall. She came back and said, wow, my ankle feels the best it has. I mean, I've been to these surgeons. I've been to these, different kinds of physical therapy. Nothing's helped me. Now it feels good. Not only that, I feel stronger. My balance is better, because balance was a big issue for her. So we started doing a few sessions, and she started feeling so much clearer that she started walking, I think, 4 or 5 miles a day. Got in really good shape. Her mind was really clear again. And the thing is, I never touched her ankle in that first session.
Mm-hmm.
It was all just balancing other energies. So I want to say that this may sound like I have some special abilities, but I don't. I mean, when I was young, I felt like I was about as psychic as a piece of granite or something. I felt completely cut off from anything like that. And when I was around groups of spiritual people, I felt usually had an inferiority complex, like these people seem so brilliant and open-hearted. But I mean, now all this is just so accessible. And I know if I can do it, anybody can do it. And so many of the doctors I work with lots of doctors and health practitioners and coaches and healers, and help them elevate their work to the quantum level. And so many of them do feel like they're more just in a rational left brain state, and they wonder, how can I do that? And they find that they are doing it after, a short time of working together, because we have these abilities. It's not like you don't have them. You just have to awaken and take some of the, the doubts and fears that have been programmed into you away. The old program.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because that is so true. And on your website, it says you're a healer of healers, or a teacher of teachers.
Uh-huh.
Why do people say this about you? What do you go in and teach this kind of quantum healing? It sounds like you do.
Yeah. Some people started saying that I should put that on my website. You are, people were suggesting I use that over and over again. So I started saying, okay, it's because the people who come to me, generally, like I say, there are people who are already in the helping professions, like a lot of acupuncturists, medical doctors, therapists, people that are life coaches, and people who are energy healers or Reiki, a lot of things like this. And these are people who are already, a lot of them are fairly successful already. These are not beginners very much. They're people who they're helping lots of people and have done a ton of training and a ton of seminars and different kinds of workshops. And, they've developed themselves, but they feel frustrated that there's like a glass ceiling of some kind. Like there's some kind of limit to how much they can really embrace what they believe they're capable of. And a lot of them are teachers. A lot of them already are teaching other people in various ways, or, healing or coaching. I found that I have that ability for those people to help them kind of break through that glass ceiling, or
Mm.
whatever kind of ceiling it is, and kind of flower at a higher level of their consciousness, of their intuition, and of their kind of, I call, their master healer abilities. So I've learned that that's something that I can help people with. So another word I like to use, not just teacher of teachers, is a catalyst.
Oh,
That's
nice.
something to talk about. Is that I don't feel like I'm doing something when I'm healing. I feel like I have a certain frequency essence that I have gotten in touch with. I call it my transmission, my spiritual transmission. You have one, everybody has one. We all have a
Yeah.
unique energy transmission. And that my transmission happens to be catalytic to help other people just make these quantum leaps into higher levels of their abilities and their effectiveness, and in many cases, their income producing abilities. And so, other people we each have different superpowers. I call them superpowers, actually. We all have different ones, but that's one of the ones. So I do actually help a lot of teachers and healers get themselves to their next level.
That is so awesome. And I hear, well, you told me you have a master course coming up. Why don't you tell our audience about this and who
Yeah,
it would help?
I'd love to, Angela. The master course, this is the third master course I've led. I have a lot of different kinds of teaching I do in many different programs, but this one has been the most popular and people have loved it because it's just 14 weeks, which is a short enough time that it's not like some long years of training, but it's a long enough time that people go through a profound transformation in their abilities. So it's an online program that we meet once a week on Zoom, and we have people from many different areas on it. And then there's some other meetings we have for guided meditations and for actually building your finances, like financial boosting and business planning. So it's an interesting combination of spiritual awakening and development, learning to be a master quantum healer and a catalyst of your own kind, with actually helping you on the business level. So you actually, earn what you're worth and get paid what you're worth. Because so many healers I know are not being paid what they're worth. And that's
Boom.
kind of
Yeah,
a
I was going to say that.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's a thing in the spiritual realm
yeah,
that there's a sort of some disconnect between the ability to make money and just being who you are as a spiritual being.
right. Yeah,
And
And
so I
Darren,
think,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Angela. I didn't realize. Yeah.
oh, I was just going to say that I think it's very valuable that you bring that aspect into your course, because so many people need that little tweak on their mindset or their beliefs
yeah,
about finances.
Yeah, and what I want to add there is you've bridged a gap. The examples you gave at the beginning were shoulder and ankle and physical stuff.
right.
And now you've bridged the gap to a deeper level, a
Mhm.
core level of the ability for someone to generate revenues while they're giving their gifts. Is there more that you could speak to about that?
Yes, Richard. One of the deepest issues that I feel that pretty much the whole human race is caught up in, and that's trauma. Like, it's not just individual trauma, it's collective trauma
Mhm.
that this planet is having an orgy of that's getting more and more intense. So a lot of what people's, physical symptoms and so on that they're talking about is based in some kind of trauma that they haven't acknowledged or cleared or healed or something like that.
Yep.
So that's actually a big part of what this work. Could you remind me what your question actually was? I got so into that part.
That I'll give you the frame for it, that you
Yeah,
went from physical
right,
to metaphysical, to
right.
the money blocks
Oh,
that
yes,
not just healers have, but many, many people are frustrated in their inability to generate revenue, not even
right.
huge sums, just sustainable.
Mhm.
And you've spoken to that, so I'm just asking for more depth on that.
Yes, thank you, Richard, for getting me back on track there. Um, right. Well, I have a lot of strong feelings about that. I mean, I feel like for decades, I've been very dedicated to helping people who are healers or practitioners to earn what they're worth. And so many hundreds and hundreds of them have, after working with me. And so I feel what the difference is that many people who go into the healing and helping professions don't have a high level of self-worth. It just seems to be like, one reason that is I feel like why do people go into the healing professions? It's often because people have their own suffering, like their own struggles they've been through. And because of that, there's a natural kind of karmic tendency to want to give back. And so it's just the way our souls operate. So therefore, a lot of people drawn into the healing arts are not the most, confident people and to begin with, if they are, they have to do a lot of work on themselves. And often part of that goes along with a difficulty asking for money, a difficulty saying, this is what I'm worth. So many of them tell me, I have trouble asking for money as a healer. Like, this should be free. I should just be giving this from my heart. And I say, yes, it's true. You can't charge for, God's healing, but you can charge for your time, what your time is worth, like all the money you've put into your training and your overhead and, your need to support yourself in a really good way. So there's a lot of these attitudes that we have to clear up with these healers, but it's beyond attitude. It's also about the level of your frequency vibration. I like to talk about that for a moment. This is an important one because I know people try to change their attitudes and beliefs till they're blue in the face and do affirmations and visualizations, and nothing really changes. Because, okay, I'm going to say a pretty bold thing here. I know this is going a little far afield from what you said, Richard, but I feel like the whole human race has fallen to a very low level compared to who we really are. That is based in competition, that's based in greed and cruelty and or people just being in polarization with each other. And that when you raise the frequency of your consciousness, like literally raise the vibration that your body and your mind and your is vibrating at, you become much more attractive to money and much more attractive to people who will come and support you and help you. And so I think a lot of people who are, not earning what they're worth in the healing professions, it's because they're very advanced in being generous and talented and giving of themselves, but they're kind of less advanced in valuing themselves and being able to receive. That's a long answer to your question.
That is so good, though, because self-love is key to success in any aspect of your life. And I really believe that if we could teach children how to love themselves, regardless of their circumstances, that we will live in heaven on earth.
Yeah. And again, there's another dimension, speaking of dimensions. My chiropractic training was from, at the time, one of the leading chiropractic colleges. The business class we had was laying out an office, designing an office. There was virtually zero on building a practice.
Okay.
And I remember so well, someone asked, well, get your first patient well, they'll tell everyone they know. Well, Darren, I'm retired 22 years. I'm still waiting for them to tell everybody. Oh, of course they referred. There's no business training for most in the healing.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
There are myriad in every profession, chiropractic, dentistry, myriad seminars to teach them how to do the business of it. You made a comment earlier. A friend of mine, we live in Taos, New Mexico. It's a very artsy town. And a friend of mine was visiting an artist and said, how long did it take you to paint that? She said, 23 years and 2 hours. It's where is it? So I'm going to separate a little bit. You talked about time, but it's not the time with someone. It's what gives them that ability to get to there. I'm going to ask you a question. No is an okay answer. Is there anything that you could share with people to help them see a little bit beyond what we all have, our limiting beliefs right now?
Yes. The biggest limiting belief that's at the core of, I believe, all our suffering and all our hang-ups and issues is a belief in separation, a belief that you are separate from your source of love, of energy, of magic, really.
Mm.
And we're dumbed down in this society. One author called it being domesticated, kind of like farm animals are.
Oh my.
Don Miguel Ruiz is the one who came up with that phrase,
Yeah.
to be that way. And so the biggest thing that's needed in order to shift that is to actually feel and sense in your own body your connection to all that is. And I'm not trying to say something in a religious sense. I mean, this is purely something that exists as much as, your ability to pick up this pen and drop it. And so this is one of the things that happens in the master course, is that one of the elements is a form of self-realization or spiritual awakening that even people that felt like they were total muggles before that, they didn't believe in any metaphysical stuff, photos, doesn't matter. Really, just the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Pretty much everybody starts experiencing this sense of connectedness. And then once that happens, a lot of these, but then there's also other layers about specific training needed to know how to conduct a successful business. So we do both of those, like a lot of the shifts in your energy and your attitude and your perception, but also very specific mastermind support where, people need actually information about how a healer will make a lot of money and get their self out, and how to do what I call educational based marketing, which is, to me, my favorite kind, like not trying to, promote yourself in the old way, but just by sharing who you are, sharing your knowledge, sharing, samples of what you do is the best way to connect with clients who really be loyal to you.
Darren, you've spoken of a masterclass. People, if you want to find out what Darren's talking about, we've got maybe 30 or so minutes here.
Okay.
This guy is rich with information. Darren, how can people get in touch with you and find out about the masterclass?
Yeah. Is there any kind of chat here where I can put it from? How does, I can speak it.
Yeah, there is a where you could post a comment and make sure it's selected to all.
See, I see a thing called comments. But anyway, I'm not sure where that is here, but I'll just speak it. If anyone wants to learn about this master course, here's how you could do it. If you want to get a paper and pen, you can write this down. Is that there is a web page. I will put it in the chat in case this is actually going. I guess I'm not connected for that, but it would be www.lightworker, that's LIGHTWORKER, then ministry, MINISTRY.com, lightworkerministry.com / master course 2023. So Angela, since you know how to do this, why don't you put that in lightworkerministry.com / master course 2023.
Angela, would you just put the HTTP in front of that so it becomes a live link, please?
Hold on, I'm still typing. / what?
HTTP :
No, Richard, please. The / after lightworkerministry.com.
After that would be / master course 2023.
Course 2023, and now I'll put the HTTP in the front.
Cool.
Is it a P or PS?
It'll be an S.
HTTPS. Okay.
Yeah. And Darren, how about an email address?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I'll give you an email. This will be a little simpler. An email address where you could reach me. And this would be Darren, DARREN, then the @ symbol, and then DR, which is short for doctor, and then my last name, Starwynn, STARWYNN.com. So it's Darren at drstarwynn.com. And I'd be welcome. Yes, thank you. That's accurate. Anybody who's interested in the master course or connect with me, I welcome you to connect with me at that email address. Now, this master course is starting next week. And so this is an opportunity. It's mostly full. We do have a few spaces left for people. This is not a really big group, and we purposely keep this at a size where there's a lot of very individual attention for everybody. So we do have a few spaces. It's starting next Thursday on October 26th. And so if anybody who's heard this, who feels something, feels touched by it, I believe you need to follow your inner guidance. Like, how would you know if this is right for you? You would know if you feel something like in your heart or something in your body, like a body rush or something in your heart or some yes that comes up inside of you. And what I'm inviting people to do who are interested in this master course is to actually have a personal conversation with me. In fact, I require that because we need to both find out that this is right for you and it's right for this group. So that way, having that call, we call it a discovery call. Now, I will give you another link that I appreciate if you put this in, Angela. This is even easier than the other ones.
Okay.
This link would be www.
Oh, I'm going to stop. It's http://.
Right, that's correct. That has
You don't need the www.
Okay. And after the www.
No www.
I'm redirecting him to give me what he was going to give me. Okay, I need the link.
Okay, so there's this other link I was going to give you. It would be www.talk, TALK, then the number 2, the numeral 2, and then Darren, DARREN.com. And we might need to add the HTTP onto that, but www.talk, number 2, instead of not TO, but the number 2, and then Darren.com. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah. So that's the easiest link. So if you click that, you'll be able to actually go right to my calendar after answering a couple of questions and grab a time. And if you're interested, I'd love to talk with you. Whether or not you enroll in the master course, I promise to share a bit of quantum healing and an intuitive, insights with you that would be helpful to you.
And I can vouch for that. You have very good intuition and good insights. And I have so many healer friends who might see this today or tomorrow on Facebook. And I would really recommend that you reach out and talk to Darren. You might just be able to upgrade into a higher level in your business.
Yeah.
Darren, what else would you like our viewers, listeners, and observers to know?
Okay. Is that I know that so many people, one word I hear a lot from people is I feel stuck. I hear that from some people that are clients and other people that are, very successful doctors and healers and coaches and from many walks. And that's I've been wondering, why do I hear that so much? And so what I believe that experience of feeling stuck is, and if anyone here can relate to that, we'd love to hear from you too, is where there's some old pattern in your mind or in your emotions or in your body that you've tried so hard to heal. Like, many people have gone to a lot of other healers and practitioners, and, we mentioned that earlier. And it helps in many ways, but this particular gnarly issue just keeps persisting. Like I just spoke to one woman yesterday who's a homeopath and does very well and so on. She said, I'm such a successful healer with everybody else. I have a great life. I have a good family. But yet there's this one issue that I've never been able to heal in like the last 35 years. I hear this really frequently. So I guess what I like to share is that something very profound about that. Those places where you may still feel stuck, like you keep having some physical symptom of pain or drain or can't sleep or whatever it is that you just can't overcome, or stuck at a certain level of income you just can't seem to get over, or stuck feeling like you're not professionally fulfilled, like you're kind of going like Groundhog's Day, like it just keeps like you're living the same day over and over again. That's what it means to me, is that this is one of your biggest life lessons. Like before you were born, you agreed to take on this whopper of a lesson for yourself and for humanity, basically. And so it is a really hard one, and you have to develop yourself. You have to raise your frequency. It takes like a real devotion to the truth and to bringing out your abilities. And at a certain point, you get to a level where it finally becomes clear to you how to shift that stuckness and then feel a sense of freedom. And there's nothing I love more than helping, my fellow practitioners and people who are helper, to get unstuck. So that's one thing I'd love to say.
Mm. Thank you so very much. I think this has been a wonderful opportunity for people to learn more about quantum healing, and an opportunity for our friends to access this for their practice, for what they do.
And can
And
I
one
share
more,
one more thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. I've written 4 books, and the most recent book, and the one most relevant to what we're talking about, is called Awakening the Avatar Within. And it's a bestseller on Amazon, have like about 125 5-star reviews for it. And this book, like if you're interested in the things I'm saying, that book will give you a great deal of, background and information and practices and so on in it. And I want to say something about the word avatar,
Mhm.
because this probably be of a lot of interest to people listening to this. Avatar is a word from the title of my book that comes from ancient Sanskrit, and it basically means God or the divine power coming into a human form and basically kicking butt in this world, like, making some big changes that need to be made at times when the human race is about to walk off the cliff for various reasons. So there's these famous avatars we've heard of, like Jesus and Krishna, and many famous ones like Martin Luther King. I mean, there's people who are clearly have made giant waves in the world like that. What's really fascinating is that we're at a time now in history where you and I are meant to be avatars. Even ordinary people like us that don't seem like superstars, like those kind of people I mentioned. The consciousness of the human race has come to the point where it's much, much easier for us to basically raise the level of our frequency, upgrade your body, release a lot of old, heavy baggage you don't need anymore from your beliefs, and literally find that you have a superpower that you can bring just by being yourself. Not taking on any strange attitudes or anything, but just by being yourself. So that's something that happens. People I work with, and in the master course, and in that book also, we'll talk about what an avatar is and how you become an avatar.
very cool. What else do you want people to know about your class as we wrap it up? Or the
Yeah.
master class, yeah.
Okay. Let me just say a few details about it. So that website, lightworkerministry.com/mastercourse 2023, has all the details. It's a 14-week program. Starts on the October 26th. We have 4 weeks off for the holidays, like Thanksgiving, and 3 weeks off at the end of December and early January. And these groups, we call them the modules. We meet in person for 1 hour and 45 minutes every Thursday. And these are really powerful sessions and very fun sessions. And they're not the kind of class where you sit and listen to a lecture, not at all. We use the breakout rooms of Zoom so that the participants are spending most of the time working with each other, practicing these quantum healing methods, practicing awakening your intuition, practicing receiving, issues for your stuckness. And so it's a very, very, hands-on kind of course. And there's actually a 4-day retreat that's part of this, because I've learned after doing this for many years that, online is very powerful, but when you get people together in person, it's a whole nother level of experience that often, like the biggest breakthroughs and, deepest healings and awakenings happen during that retreat. So we will be doing that retreat in February. And there's also a lot of other elements, to it. But basically, this course is designed for busy professionals, like people that don't have a ton of time. So you can maximize all these transformations just in a few hours a week without having to go way, way out of your way. And basically the purpose of it, the purpose of it is that whatever level you are at now, as a practitioner, as a healer, as a doctor, as coach, whatever you would call it, you will go to a higher level of expressing your superpowers and really seeing people's lives change in more dramatic ways. and also being more magnetic to bringing in the things that you need, financially or in terms of your own health or your relationships. So that's the outcome. There's also the other outcome is that you'll be awakening your higher sense perception, which is a way of sort of broadening out from the word intuition, so that you don't have to totally just depend on your left brain. You keep using that, but you'll also be getting a lot more trusting those inputs you get that tell you these things that your mind would never think of about helping people. And it's also a load of fun. I mean, the people in these master courses are keeping in touch with each other. They make these deep friendships because it's such a deep, intimate thing you share with this group of other people. So there's so much more, but I'll be glad to talk in person, or go to the webpage to learn more about that.
Thank you so very much. This has been amazing, wonderful talking to you again.
Yeah.
I hope you have a very blessed evening.
Thank you for your time, Darren. Be well.
And I know you're going on a trip tomorrow, so I hope you have a good, safe trip and whatever that is really as well. And thank you so much, the two of you, for taking your time to interview me and share this with your people. I'm very, very grateful to you for that.
Our pleasure. Have a good evening.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
have a good evening. Good night.
Okay. Now I'm ending.